Hi everyone, my name is Dana Pelguin. I am a civil engineering graduate from Carleton University and I graduated in 2013. I currently work for a company called WSP Canada as a structural designer. So I work on a bunch of buildings around the Ottawa area on some schools, community centers, doing consulting. I've also worked here on campus at Carleton University working on the tunnels as well as a little bit at the Parliament buildings downtown.
Hello everyone, my name is Magali Duval. I graduated from Carleton with a bachelor's in engineering, in aerospace engineering back in 2003, and then I also did my master's here and finished that in 2006. So I've been working now for several years, and lately I've been at Transport Canada. I work in civil aviation, and I work in the rules and regulations department. So we make the rules, regulations that apply to aircraft certification. So that means we try to make sure the aircraft are safe to fly. Before that, I worked on aircraft design and aircraft modifications with companies, mainly with military contractors, on military transport aircraft. So yeah, that's about me.
Hey, I'm Tusha Gampodi. I graduated in '02 in computer systems engineering from Carleton. And since then, right now, I'm an engineering manager at Magnet Forensics. It's a digital forensics software company. Before that, I worked at BlackBerry for about 12 years, first as a software developer, then as a team lead, and then as a manager. So now I manage a great team of about 25. It's a small team here. And I'm happy to be here to tell you a little bit about my experiences in the industry.
All right, thanks, ladies. So today's panel has been divided into 3 themes. So the first thing we've been asked to reflect on is our time at Carleton. So first, I'd like to talk a bit about Carleton peer networks and building relationships with fellow students. There can be definite benefits that come along with that. So clubs and societies can also be a great way to build those professional and personal network. So would any panelist like to share their experience in making connections with fellow Carleton students and what benefits you found from that?
Okay, I'll have a stab at this one first. I didn't actually do much in clubs and societies. There's always been clubs and societies at Carleton, even back 20 years ago when I started. And they're a great place if you're interested, if you have interest in anything, to go and meet people and actually try them out. I did find something that was interesting. I ended up going on a varsity team. I was fencing. It was something that you see on television usually. If anybody's ever seen the Princess Bride movie, you get to see it there. And so I actually got to try it, and it was free because I was paying tuition. So you get to do that, and then I stuck with it. And the benefit to that is you meet new people. You meet people outside your program. You make friends that I still get in touch with. I still fence. It's been on and off, obviously, since life happens, but you make lifelong networks and connections, which expand into areas you don't really realize. I've met people that I fence with at work. I worked at NRC for a few years, and one of the people there ended up being a coach in fencing. So it was kind of odd, but it makes moving into other areas a bit easier in the future as well. And I don't know if anybody here is interested in residence, but that is actually one of the other things that I found, that I met a lot of people who are, some of which are my best friends still nowadays. It's a place where, especially in first year, you're not alone. You meet a lot of people. Everybody's around the same age usually. You're all facing the same kind of transition, and you get to group together with other people in your program that are probably also in residence and work together and work through some more difficult times, especially if you're moving away from home for the first time. So it's a pretty safe environment, and you get to meet a lot of people, so I'd highly recommend it. I don't know if anybody else has...
I can. Yeah, so when I was in school, I was involved in 2 groups and societies. I was involved for 1 year with the Carleton Student Engineering Society, and then another year with Engineers Without Borders Carleton. When I was working with Engineers Without Borders Carleton, I came in as a very timid person, but one of the things they do is they actually do youth outreach programs where they go out to high schools and they'll talk about international development and some of the systemic problems that happens in that. So through the support system of that group, I was able to go out and do those presentations. So before, I wasn't able to talk in front of a group this large. And that kind of really helped me with my communication skills. And I don't know if you know this, but engineers aren't really known for their communication skills. So being involved with clubs and societies like that was really beneficial for my professional networking, because then once I graduated, I was able to put myself out there and talk to people that I didn't know before and have a little bit more confidence and that kind of thing.
I'm just going to quickly add to that. So for me, I was really involved in dance, and dance was kind of like my first major priority. So being at Carleton, I actually came to Carleton because we had like a good dance team, and I knew there were so many other clubs, and there's at least, I think, 250 clubs and societies at Carleton. So there's always something for you to find, and for me, dance was there. So we did national competition, so I got to keep that alongside with my degree, and now I have my dance company, and I'm still like working in the field, so it's kind of a win-win situation there. But yeah, thank you for your answers. We're gonna move on to the next topic, I guess. So as an engineering student, your first taste to the industry world might be through a co-op position or an internship or perhaps a summer job. And since applying for jobs can be intimidating, especially without a degree under your belt, what advice could you give to the students who are present here today for applying for co-op positions, internships, or summer jobs?
You want me to take this one? Sure. Yeah, we, at our company, we take quite a few co-op students. So we currently have one from Carleton and one from Ottawa. So I get to see this a lot. And I did co-op when I was at Carleton, so I've seen both sides. It's definitely very valuable. So if you get the chance to do co-op, I highly recommend it, because getting that industry experience is really helpful. It gives you a different perspective of what it's going to be like when you graduate. Plus, when you do graduate, I think you'll have that experience you can put on your resume, which would really help you when you start your job search. Some of the things I could recommend is definitely when you look at job postings, some of the requirements that they have listed might be a little daunting. Some, depending on where you look, they might have a lot of requirements. I would say don't let that hold you back if you don't check all the boxes. You can still apply. Like if it's I would say research the company. Find some companies that really interest you. Read about the company, read about the culture at the company. And then when you go look at their job postings, even if you don't qualify for everything they're asking for, I highly recommend that you apply, because I'm on the other side, and we're not looking for someone, especially as a student, to check all of the boxes. We are interviewing you and hiring you for your potential. So we're looking for you to tell us that you can learn, and that you have the potential. And the best thing you get from an engineering degree, I found, more than the technical skills, was that they taught you how to learn very, very quickly and how to problem solve. And those skills really get you through life, through anything.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I can add to that. My experience is pretty much the same. Now I work for the government, so obviously the government hiring process is a lot stiffer for a number of reasons, but I recently moved to the government, and I can say that in the previous company I worked for, yeah, apply. I mean, the truth is, if you're a student, we don't expect you to have all the knowledge. We have 10 years down the road with experience and degrees and grad degrees in some cases. We don't. You're not going to have it. And you all have a fairly similar background. It's unusual for somebody to be looking for a job if they don't like school in the first place. So they're probably not going to be applying to the kind of job that you're probably thinking of applying. So what really puts you out there is the fact that you do your homework on the company, you find something you like, and you go for it. You're not going to tick all the boxes. Those are wish lists for students. It's something as a company you are hoping that you have, but you probably won't, and we know that. And yeah, put it forward. Make sure you're confident. Don't over-exaggerate it. We do notice that too, and that's not necessarily going to work in your favor. But yeah, go for it. I mean, you're not going to lose anything, and if there's nothing advertised, give them a call. If you're honest and you've done your research and you know how you could fit in, we might not have something for you at that point in time, but they'll probably remember you. So if you come back, your name comes back up later, or if somebody needs somebody to help out for a bit, they might remember you and they might call you back, or they might tell somebody else about, oh, hey, I had this student that applied. So yeah, no, it's kind of scary, but you have nothing to lose. You really don't. So definitely apply.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one short thing to that too, is something to keep in mind about reaching out, even if they don't have job postings. A lot of jobs are filled before a posting even goes out. So it is really a good idea, even if you don't see anything by a company, to just sort of reach out to those companies. Because I know from the hiring the last 5 people in my group at work, they were chosen before we even posted anything online for people to see. So that's really good advice.
Thank you all for the insights. I'm sure this is really relatable to many of us here, definitely to me, so thank you for that. On that note, we're going to move on to our second topic. So we've been asked to discuss in our experience in industry, what advice would you give to someone in high school or university who is uncertain about future career pursuits, because the uncertainty can be very nerve-wracking sometimes. How do you start making plans when you're not sure what you'd like to end up doing?
You want me? Okay, I can jump on that one just to start. So I guess when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went with the path that would give me the most options. So I went to university because it would give me the most options. And I went into civil engineering because I didn't just have to work on roads or bridges or et cetera, et cetera. I could work on buildings, I could work for the government, I can work in consulting, I can not do engineering at all, but I still have the skill set to learn, so people will still hire me. So if you don't know what to do, I would suggest taking the road with the most options, and then you can kind of figure out what you like from there, if that helps anyone at all.
That's great. I think, Dusha, you want to add?
Sure. Yeah, I think, well, I'm kind of partial to engineering. If you don't know what type of engineering, because really they teach you a lot about how to learn and how to problem solve. It's really useful. And if you don't know which type of engineering to do, I think the first year is kind of general anyway. So even if you have to pick one, I think you do have the option to switch and change. And I know people who have done this. It seems daunting that, in high school you have to already decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. But I think don't hesitate to change when you get into university. Just pick something that interests you to begin with. So if you pick engineering, and then you can always switch after your first year if you find that you like computers or you like environment more than that. Just be a little flexible and know that it's okay to make those changes as you learn. The most important thing is to find something that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, that you care about. I find then when you do graduate and go to work, you probably have a great time at it, and you'll do really good work. If you're doing something you like to do, then you'll give it your best, and it's actually quite rewarding if you have that.
Great, thank you. So our panelists today, myself included, are at a different stages in our careers. And I'd like to ask the three of you to give the audience a sense of where you see yourself in the next 5 years. And do you have a plan? Is there a flexibility in your plan? Is it even important to have a plan at all?
Okay, so I am about 2 months away from being able to apply for my professional license, and then after that it'll take about 3 to 6 months for them to actually review it and give me my license, assuming that they're happy with all my criteria. But after that, I have the plan to stay in Ottawa and work for an additional 3-ish years as a professional engineer, being able to sign off on documents. And then I'm hoping to be able to work for a company like a not-for-profit or the UN doing either crisis relief whenever there's an earthquake somewhere, or if they need refugee camps, to spend some time doing that and kind of giving back to society, I guess. And then coming back and trying to work my way up the ladder. It is flexible. I am engaged and my fiance wants to go work in Europe, so if we end up going there, I'm definitely not going to complain about that. But there's flexibility in it, but long term I want to do something that will give back, and then I also still want to work my way to being someone's boss someday, which I think is kind of neat.
Yeah, I'm a bit further along. I've been I've been working now I think I've been in the industry since roughly 2003, since I did my master's in the industry. So a lot of you weren't actually born when I started my degree, which gives you an idea of maybe how long I've been going at it. I think it's important that everybody has a plan, and it doesn't have to be fixed. It can be very, very loose, but it'll give you a sense of what you want and where you're going. And plans change because your life will change as you go. You'll meet new people, you'll have things that will happen in your life, and your plans will change. But it's always good to have that plan, because nobody is going to make it happen for you. and you can have loving parents, which I know a lot of them are here. You will have bosses that will be good to you. You will have professors while you're in university that will also help you out. But nobody is going to make things happen to get you to what your plan is. So yes, it is important to have a plan. My personal plan right now, I just started with the government. So I'm now in a new job. So my plan was to change jobs because I'd been at my previous one for 10 years and it was just time for change. It wasn't that I didn't like it, I just wanted to try something different. So I went from design and maintenance world to a regulatory world, since now I help define the laws that direct civil aviation. So yeah, my plan's very flexible right now. I prefer project management, so that's if anybody's interested in that in the long term, engineering can take you there. I like engineering projects, so big projects, but I've discovered that I like being able to see everything. I like seeing it all come together, and I like seeing it wrap up. And that's very different. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I wanted to be a technical lead. So not very different from Dana. That's changed because I've discovered that I like project management. So my plan is to get my project management professional accreditation and move on to program management in the next few years. And I don't know at this point whether it'll be in government or whether I'll go back to industry. But that's the part that's flexible. I'm kind of scoping out my options, to be perfectly honest right now. There's a lot out there. So keep your mind open, but have a plan, would be my advice.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. I've been doing this since '02, so when I started, I know when I started, I guess most of you weren't born, the students here anyway, thanks for that reminder.
Sorry.
But yeah, I guess when I graduated university, I'm not sure if I had a plan necessarily. It was really just to find a job, get some job experience, and use the skills that I just, learned, to put it to good use. And then as I got more and more industry experience, I think you do learn more about what type of things you're good at and what type of things you enjoy. So for me, I didn't have a plan at the beginning except really just to put the skills to use. But as I've grown in my career, certainly I enjoyed the leadership side. And luckily, I got the opportunity to move up and build teams. After having worked at BlackBerry for about 10 years, when I was looking to move, Magnet hired me to build a team here. So I was the first hire in Ottawa. And it was a great opportunity because I got to build a team from the beginning. And that was great. So I think my plan is really to keep doing that a little bit more. I'm really enjoying it. I get to work with a lot of engineers, and I get to watch them grow. And I find that really rewarding for me. And I'm also at a point in my career where I'm looking to give back to the community, certainly the tech community, and certainly to encourage more women to get into STEM and engineering and science. I care a lot about that. So for the next half of my career, that's what I'm hoping to do more.
Awesome, thank you. I've just always sort of gone with the flow. I was like, okay, keep dancing, keep doing engineering, and something will work out. And sometimes if you're not exactly sure what you want to do, it's okay. You learn more about yourself. I went into dance, I worked for Carleton. I learned that I like the people side of things, and I'm like, I want to go more into project management as well, so it's okay. But this brings us to the next point. So besides our industry experience, one of the reasons we've been asked to participate in this panel today is because we are women, and which is our final topic. So as women in tech and engineering, many of us are familiar with being referred to as woman in engineering or woman in tech. How does being a woman impact your work or sense of identity as an engineer, or does it even have an impact at all?
I guess I'll give it a go. Personally, and this is something that I know from a lot of friends that I went through university with that were women as well, and it never impacted who I was. I knew I was drawn to engineering. It's just something I am interested in, and that has never changed regardless of my gender or anything I've done. I am an engineer, and being a girl, being where you are in life right now, it does not stop you in today's society, and it shouldn't. And there are people that will try to tell you differently, but it doesn't change you as a person. You have to own yourself, which does require possibly a little bit of strength of character. So people might tell people I am stubborn, which is somewhat true. But it doesn't change the fact that I am an engineer. I have earned my degree just like everybody else who's got a degree. I've gone through school, I've had my experience, and there are times where men and women that I come into contact with professionally will assume I'm the assistant to whoever else is there. And I will disillusion them very quickly that I'm not. So, yes, it impacts work, but I think it's never stopped me, and and most women I know in my field, in aerospace engineering, it hasn't stopped them either. There is definitely room for everyone, and it just takes work. And I won't lie, you do probably need to stand up for, be assured. You are who you are, you have your qualifications, you don't need to back down. Which is a little daunting when you're 17 years old, possibly. But I found personally what actually affects me more is that people tend to assume I'm much younger than I actually am. And I'm not, so I'll often get the "you're too young for this," which, well, I'm not. So yeah, there's different things out there. None of them will stop, and none of them will stop you being you and being competent.
Thank you. Dusha, I think you want to add something?
Yeah, I think definitely in engineering, I agree. I don't remember really feeling different as a woman in engineering. There were classes I was in, sometimes where I was the only woman, but I don't remember it really affecting me too much. I think the men in engineering that I've met, who I'm still friends with, were pretty supportive, so I don't remember feeling different. So the engineering experience at Carleton was actually pretty great. Certainly as you get into the industry and move through to leadership levels, there's not many women, so I think one of the differences I saw was that I didn't really have any female mentors or females in leadership that I could look up to. But we're working hard to change that so that by the time you get there, maybe it'll be a little bit different. Because now I think I do realize that seeing someone else at a leadership position, like seeing a woman at a leadership position in tech or in engineering, it does make a difference to me. It's nice to see so that I can look at her and say, maybe I can do it too. But definitely I think you need some strength in character. Often if you're in teams, like I've been in teams in the industry where I'm the only woman in the room, and early on, it wasn't always easy for me to use my voice and share my opinion. But I think you might think that people might not take you or your opinion as seriously. The important thing to remember is to continue. You do have your degree. My degree gave me a lot of strength at times when I questioned myself early on. I reminded myself, well, I have an engineering degree, so I must have something important to say. So I just stayed with it, and usually everyone was convinced by the time I was done speaking anyway. And so it's important to keep at it. And it's actually really great seeing you all here. So I'm excited at the thought of more women getting into engineering. So,
thank you. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that, or?
Okay, so maybe I just want to say, yes, you might be a minority in your group, but have confidence in yourself. There have been times where we've met with contractors who will sometimes question our decisions, and it'll happen if you're a male or female as a consultant. They want to do jobs the best way for them to make money in construction. That's just how the industry seems to go. And so they'll question you, and often I'll come back and say, oh, let me think about that, and I'll get back to you. And right after talking to them, I'll look at myself and be like, why did I do that? I knew the answer. I should have had confidence in myself because I designed this. I knew why it was like this. So just, you have the education, you're getting the work experience, you have the background. People are going to question you, but have confidence and own it. It's my only advice there.
That was a great word. Thank you. So last question from my side. So as a woman in engineering or IT, it's inevitable that you'll be working alongside men and often be outnumbered by men as well. Have any of you ever had conversations with the male colleagues who are looking for ways to support fellow colleagues who happen to be women, and have those conversations been productive?
Definitely. So In WSP, I'd say right now our ratios are about 29% women. We actually just recently asked for this because about 10 people from our office went to a women engineering conference, so we wanted to see what our stats were. So we have about 30% women at WSP, which we're at that 30 by 30. There's this platform by Engineers Canada where they're trying to reach 30% women in the industry by 2030. So we're almost there, which is really great. I don't know what the actual breakdown is, if they're actually engineers or the technicians or admin staff, but just the idea that we are getting there is really awesome. But then it also ignited the conversation with my boss about, does he ever do anything that makes us feel uncomfortable? What can he do to support us? And he's there for us. It's really important to remember that everyone is there to support each other because at the end of the day, as weird as it is to say, it is a business. They want their business to succeed, and having diversity in the workplace allows a business to succeed. The other side of that is, I lost my train of thought. I wasn't
great
scripted. The other side of that is WSP is also making really great steps because the consulting industry doesn't have as great of benefits as the private industry does. We don't have retirement plans. We don't have paternity leave. But just recently, they have actually decided to give us a 16-week mat leave at WSP, which they didn't have before. It is not as great, it's not as great as having that full year off to be with your children, but they are taking steps forward because they're realizing that more of their staff are becoming women, and you have to cater to them, otherwise they're going to leave. You're nourishing this talent, and if you don't take the steps to keep them, then they're going to leave to go work for the government or go work somewhere where they feel supported. So there are really great steps that's being made in consulting, which I'm really looking forward to, and we're going to keep pushing those boundaries and tell them, we want the full year, we want to have flexible work hours and everything like that. So it's really good that these steps are being made forward, and we're starting to catch up to the private industry.
That's a great point. Thank you.
Sure.
Touche, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, I've worked with mostly men my entire life, and it's been great, and it's a supportive environment. I've a lot of my mentors have been men. As I said, I didn't have many females in leadership that I knew, so because it was men in leadership, I think when I wanted to learn from someone, I did reach out. I think that's important. It's important. It's nice to find a mentor, definitely. And if you can't find a female mentor, then there's lots of men in leadership, and it's okay to ask them too. It might be a little intimidating. It was for me at the beginning, but I highly recommend that you do it anyway because a lot of them are supportive and they're happy to help. Whether you're male or female, I think they're just happy to help you succeed in your career, especially if they're in the same company as you. So don't hesitate to reach out and form those relationships. It's been really helpful for me.
Thank you.
The only thing I can add is obviously I work for the government now. It's got a whole program that you can probably check out online on how they're going to get more women into the fields where they need them. But when I was in the private industry right before I joined the government, the aerospace industry has typically been white male, to put things rather bluntly, and these people are retiring, and part of the problem is they actually don't understand why they can't attract more women in certain companies. Part of the reason is women tend to congregate. So if you find out there's more women somewhere, well, you tend to go join your friends. And the guys do the same thing. So they'll go peg their friends that they've known since military academy, or in some cases, if you're working in the military, or in university, their buddies. And so you get this propagation of just men being around. And I had this interesting discussion with the directors of my previous company because they were trying to get more women in, and we were being able to attract co-op students that were women, which was great. But then we had trouble retaining them, and of course when I left it didn't help anything. So we had a fairly frank discussion, and I know now they make an effort to actually seek out women. And that's a change. So it does make a difference. You do have to speak up if you find that, hey, why are you not listening to me? Or, my voice counts. Or, it's intimidating, but most real leaders will actually listen. Because, as Dana pointed out, diversity has been proven now to help, and everybody wants to make money. Every company out there has a board of directors that is just waiting to get the better numbers. And so diversity is the thing out there. And you guys, the students here, are prospective students, I'm hoping students in engineering, are the next, are how we're going to get there. You're the 30% to get to 2030. We really need you in the industry. And you know, your point of view is important. It's not a myth. Women tend to approach problems differently than men, and it makes a difference in a team. It really does. So, yeah, definitely, it makes a difference to talk about it to other men, to leaders, to board of directors, which are mostly men still nowadays in most companies, whether engineering or not, and they listen.
Great. These are great perspectives, so thank you for sharing those. So that was all the questions from my end, but I'm sure all of you may have questions, so we'll open up the floor to you to ask any questions related to their career, academia about Carleton. Feel free to either walk over the mics or just raise your hand and someone will come to you with the mic.
How did you guys choose which stream of engineering you wanted to go into? Like, what kind of factors did you consider?
Great question. So the question was, everyone heard the question. I forgot everyone has the mic right now.
I guess, yeah. I went for aerospace. Aerospace at the time was, Ryerson didn't have their program yet, so there wasn't much of a selection, to be honest. And I actually got into mechanical, not aerospace, when I first got into Carleton. So if anybody's looking and isn't sure, an example you can switch. But yeah, I was interested in aircraft. I was interested in spaceship. I mean, I'm part of that Star Wars generation in a way. So yeah, that's why I picked aerospace.
Yeah, I picked computer. I took a computer science class in grade 10, I think. I was always curious about engineering because my dad worked at an engineering university and I really enjoyed math and sciences, but I took a computer science class in grade 10 and that was it. It was really, I loved it. The logic, and it was very rewarding because, you know, you write code and then you can see the result right away. If you do it wrong, you can see the result. If you do it right, then like magic happens. And I still feel that way. So computer was an easy choice for me.
I thought architecture is really cool, but I can't draw. And I'm good at math and science, so I went to go into engineering instead.
Great. Does anyone, oh, we have a question right here. Mike running over to you right now.
Thank you. I was just wondering about your thoughts on how hard it is to kind of have a bit of a life outside such an intense program, and, you know, it's how hard is it to get involved in extracurricular activities and try and be a bit of a balanced person?
I'll answer this since I was probably the most recent graduate. So the nice thing about being involved in the engineering societies and Engineers Without Borders is that all the other students in that are going through it with you. So exam time, everyone is buckled down in the library doing exams and they're not being a social. Whereas when you have your in-between the midterms and the start of school, everyone is being social. So you have that kind of, what is it, like, not roller coaster of free time, and they're all in the same boat as you. So whereas if you're friends with someone maybe in, I don't know, an arts program of some sort, they have more time to read, and they're not spending as much time doing assignments, so their schedules are a little bit off. So getting involved in the engineering societies and groups and clubs is beneficial in that area, and then you build those connections because they'll help you when you graduate as well. So that's nice too.
I can add a little bit. The parents might not appreciate me saying this. I do this every time, but engineering is really hard compared to high school. Like, you come to engineering and, you know, usually you have like A+ from high school coming into engineering, feeling like you're really good at what you do. And then you take these engineering classes and they're tough. Not in a bad way necessarily, they're just harder than high school. That being said, I didn't take it too seriously, so this is the part the parents might not like. All that to say, it was important for me to have a balance. I'm not really someone to study the entire time and not have extracurricular activities, so I kind of balanced both. And I think you can, if I'm an example, I didn't have A grades when I graduated engineering, so find what you value, but I was okay with it. Like, you know, I was okay with the grades I had, but I had the extracurricular activities and the relationships and the friendships that I built that also helped me in my career now, because I'm still in Ottawa and, you know, all of those friendships help. And now, like, in the industry as well, when you graduate and work, I guess we should mention, like, I have 2 kids now, and it's a great, I mean, sometimes people would say you don't call it work-life balance. Sometimes you have work more, and sometimes you have time for family more, but it's definitely doable. You just have to make sure you find what you value and then make time for it. It was doable for me throughout engineering. Do make sure you stop and have some fun.
Yeah, I have to agree with them. I was varsity, so there was a certain engagement to our program. That being said, I don't know what the varsity program's like nowadays, but back then you had to maintain a certain grade to be able to be in varsity, to have varsity status. So, but there's time. People were always involved in clubs and societies, and yeah, as you know, you have to decide whether you really want that A+ or if you're just happy with an A or an A-. In my case, I had an A-. I was fine. That maintained my scholarship. That was perfect for me. Yeah, apologies to the professors that might have had me back then. This is why I didn't have a perfect average. But yeah, friendship and socializing is an important aspect. And it does teach you work-life balance for the future. I mean, if it's a skill that you will probably build and that you should try to build at least throughout your university career as well. So yeah, there is time. It's new when you start in first year, but you figure it out. I mean, it's, you know, we all graduated. We all, I think, had a social life, which we may or may not own later on. But no, it's definitely possible.
Oh, sorry. I just want to quickly add to that. So you're spending about 4 to 5 years here doing academia and stuff, and you don't want it to just be books because you're going to go crazy. So, like, for me, I was, like I mentioned earlier a few times, I've been involved in dance. I spent quite a few hours in my day dancing, and honestly, that's my passion, but I knew I had to make the rest of it work. So yeah, maybe my first year I went a bit overboard. I was like part of a cultural group, I was part of my dance, I was working part-time, and then you start seeing the difference, but it's not the end, right? Like, you get to learn, you get to see what your priorities are, you get to find that balance, and from second to fourth year, I finally found a way to manage both the dance and the engineering side of things. So it's definitely doable. If I have to give one advice in general, is do get involved and engage yourself in university more than just going to your class and stuff, because it is 4 to 5 years of your life, so.
And the best, I think, looking back now, university time was some of the best years of my life, so.
100%.
Also, there's nothing to say you can't do both at the same time. So sometimes my friends and I would go into a room up there, and we would be here on the weekend, and we'd be studying together. Maybe we would be here an hour longer than necessary, but we're all working together and socializing as we work, which is really nice. And one of the things I really liked about Carleton is that there's such a good sense of community rather than competition with your peers. So that's really nice, and that you're working together to solve problems, and so you're getting those connections and those friendships while you're doing your work, which is a little unique, I think.
For sure. Oh, okay, so I think I saw that hand first, and then we'll come to this question.
Hi. Mental health is really important. So for a lot of these kids, you know, it's a shock, first of all, to go to, and then next, if they're far away from home, what advice would you give them to kind of, because some of them might be a little bit timid to get started into these clubs and social groups, but what advice do you give them to at least get themselves started to get involved?
So I came here from Sudbury, Ontario. I didn't know anybody coming here. I think there was one other person from my high school, and I didn't really hang out with her a lot. And I was thrown into it, especially living in residence. You're kind of thrown into it, and you can't not make friends because everyone else is in the same boat as you are. So you're going to come into it being a shy, introverted person like I was, and I was forced into this other room with this other shy, introverted person, and we became the best of friends. And so it can be hard. There are services on campus if you are feeling really intimidated. There are counseling services. They are part of your tuition, so they don't cost anything. And it's really good to take advantage of them if you can. But if you're worried about like social anxiety or anything like that, it does help. I found it helped being thrown into it. So that girl that I live with is now going to be my maid of honor at my wedding. So it really, like, being thrown into it really helps you build those connections.
Yeah, I'd have to echo. I was in residence. I came from France. I went to high school in France. My family lives in France. So I was effectively on my own. There's definitely help for anybody that's feeling anxious. I think the parents might actually feel more anxious than the kids. So get that phone plan if you don't have long distance. But and that was actually something I did have. I had a long distance plan, and I could get hold of my parents whenever I wanted to. I didn't, probably to their dismay. But yeah, I was in residence, and you are with a whole bunch. Back when I was in it, I don't know what it is now. There's a lot more residents. Only first years were in residence when I started. I think now there's more space, so there might be other years. But you're with thousands of students that are in first year. Most of them will be from out of town. There will be some that you'll meet that are from the area and will have roots, but most of your classmates will actually be going through the same thing. So the stress actually just kind of, it doesn't amplify, it tends to go away because people will share their experience, and even the introverts will listen. I was more introverted, I didn't talk as much, and you have people around you, they'll support you, either implicitly or explicitly. So it's actually not that bad because everybody's in it together. It's not just one person being dumped into the middle of some sort of bath where everybody already knows what they're doing. They're all figuring it out at the same time, which is a bit of a scary thought, but it works.
Thank you. I think we had a question right there earlier.
Following the theme of university first year, so how can one prepare for first year? Like I think transitioning from high school into university can be daunting. So first question. Second question is for those of you who are from local, what's the pros and cons of staying on campus versus not for first year?
So I think the first question was transitioning.
I don't really know what the answer is for your first question. I think it'll depend probably on each individual. Some people are, even as high schoolers, are much more outgoing and entrepreneurial than I will probably ever be in my lifetime, to be perfectly honest. So they will have that kind of go-getter attitude that will get them through that a lot more easily. So I was much more introverted. If people kind of looked at me sideways, I was more likely to run away than to try to go towards them. But you kind of grow into it, and actually being away from home helps you do that in a way, because most people don't want to just sit there in the corner forever. So you'll meet other people that will reach out to you because everybody is different. So how you transition will probably be up to each student. I would say find out if you're nervous, find out as much as you can. And nowadays it's so much easier than when I went through it. You have internet. So find out if there's, I don't know if there are groups online that you can already join of existing students to get put in touch with to try to tell you what's going on. But it's possible.
So the transition-wise, socially, how you can help yourself transition, Frosh Week is getting involved in meeting people within your program or within the university. Academically, how you can get involved is that there are first-year support programs at Carleton now. I think they just started as I was graduating, maybe. But seek out the opportunities because there are extra services and extra tutoring opportunities. If you don't feel like you're up to par with what you think you want to be at, take advantage of these because they're part of your tuition. There's so many services offered by the universities that people don't take advantage of. I mean, you're paying for it, so you may as well use it.
I think for me, my experience was quite the opposite. I didn't do Frosh Week, which I regretted later, only because I heard it was so much fun. But I wasn't really, I was pretty quiet in my first year, and yeah, not much of a partier either. So I didn't do Frosh Week. I didn't stay in res either. I stayed off campus. So I think both. I would recommend, it depends on your preference. And my experience was completely fine. It was great. As I said, it was some of the best years of my life. So I kind of just I grew up in Ottawa, but I didn't live at home. I just lived not in res, just rented a room. A couple of other students were out there too, but I didn't know any of them. I kind of just showed up on the first day to engineering. I didn't even come to any of the orientations, so you're already ahead. I just showed up, and then it's busy, like you go to your first class and then you go to your second class. First year is busy. You do just get thrown into it. I didn't do much preparation, like I didn't study extra thinking it was going to be hard. You kind of just pick it up and you go. I think you're already really smart. If you're going to get into engineering, like you're already at the top of your class. So even if you don't prepare, like enjoy your summer and then come here, you'll just pick it up and go. That's okay too. Just
Thank you. So unfortunately, I think we're a bit out of time right now. So we'd like to thank you, the audience, for some great questions, and to our panelists, Dana, Magali, and Thusha, for their inspiring words today. So that's all the time we have, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and the lunch and everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you.